Hey Lemonsies, Max here. What is psychedelic rock? Well, it is a subgenre of rock and roll which started when musicians started experimenting with mind-altering drugs such as LSD and marijuana, and then wanting to replicate these effects in their music.
Bro, you're talking about drugs, you haven't even tried them? If you want to be qualified to speak on this, you need to try it, man.
No! Say no to drugs. A PSA by Max Havard.
Nah bro, try it, it's good.
What is it?
It's weed SD. It's like LSD and weed. It stuffs you, bro. So?
Nothing. Is it like oregano or something?
Nah bro, give it a sec.
My third eye is opening. R&B, as well as country and western music, heavily influenced the creation of rock and roll, with most historians believing it to have surfaced in the early 1950s. Psychedelic rock, on the other hand, is a subgenre, created when musicians started to experiment with drugs. Thus, the music they have created is supposed to replicate the feeling of your mind opening and detachment from reality, simulating the same effects the drugs do. Psychedelic rock started with the hippie movement, which kind of normalized drugs to that generation. This means that psychedelic rock started in the early 1960s, probably around the west coast of the USA. Psychedelic rock also had a heavy influence on other types of rock, such as progressive rock and alternative rock. As I was saying before, the hippie movement.
Hey man, want some weed?
Let's go someplace quieter. Anyway, the hippie movement, which was a form of counterculture, one about true freedom, experimentation, and peace, often expressed themselves and their feelings through protests and social gatherings. For example, the Vietnam War protests and the 1967 Summer of Love. Not only did they express themselves through protests and gatherings, but also through music, with psychedelic rock, as we already know, being one of the most famous out there. A lot of very famous bands actually helped pioneer this genre, with notable examples being the Beatles with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Beach Boys with Pet Sounds, the Doors with Strange Days, the Jimi Hendrix Experience with Axis, Bold as Love, and Pink Floyd with The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Oh, hold on. I feel kind of weird.
So, how was it?
Shit.
No.
Yeah. Wanna analyze Pink Floyd's Comfortably Numb? Yeah, let's go. Comfortably Numb came from Pink Floyd's 1979 album The Wall, which was eventually adapted into a movie in 1982 of the same name. This allowed for a very high production value, only limited to what they had available at the time, and a $12 million budget. For some basic info on the movie, it follows our protagonist, a jaded rock star called Pink, who was walled off his emotions to society and his loved ones, through various means such as drugs. This is represented by The Wall. Comfortably Numb is about Pink's experience with a doctor who is trying to snap him out of his drugged out state so he can play at a rock concert. Comfortably Numb explores the issues of the ethics of the music industry and its perform at all costs attitude. This attitude means that musicians are treated like machines. This is shown when the doctor who is trying to help Pink tries to convince him that he is in pain and needs an unknown drug to fix it.
I hear you feeling down. Well, I can ease your pain, get you on your feet again.
Even when Pink responds,
There is no pain.
the doctor then ignores him
Okay.
and goes ahead with the injection anyway.
Just a little pinprick. There'll be no more but you may feel a little sick.
The screaming by Pink showing that the unknown drug the doctor gave him indeed made him feel sick. Sick enough to be wailing in pain. My final bit of evidence is when the doctor says,
Can you stand up? I do believe it's working. Good. That'll keep you going through the show. Come on, it's time to go.
even though Pink was drugged up to the point that he was basically in a coma, they still forced him to go to a rock concert, even though he still isn't in any condition to play, showing they don't think of him as a living, breathing human. Comfortably Numb also dives into what it's like being as drugged up as Pink. If you notice, Pink sounds more drawn out and slurred compared to the Doctor, who is coherent.
When I was a child, I had a fever. Hello, hello, is there anybody in there?
Pink also mentions,
You are only coming through in waves. Your lips move, but I can't hear what you say.
showing Pink's lack of perception of the outside world, and how he is seemingly slipping in and out of reality. Pink also says,
This line is fairly self-explanatory, kind of going in on what his high is like exactly.
the video referencing that the only other time he has felt this way was from when he was drugged up by a doctor as a child due to an illness. Pink Floyd also uses 2 guitar solos as audio codes, the first portraying Pink's high using high-pitched, drawn-out notes, and the second portraying Pink coming out of it. Notice how the notes are a lot more violent now. The stereotypes Pink Floyd uses throughout the movie is the one about rock stars being addicts and junkies, and drugged up whenever they aren't playing. They use this stereotype to allow the audience to understand what is happening to Pink, and the fact that Pink is always drugged up as a plot point, like we see in Comfortably Numb. The values in the video clip also match the song with the fact that musicians are treated like machines, made to pump out music for the public, and make money for the higher-ups, and some of the more negative effects of drugs and what they can turn people into. Since Pink Floyd is a rock band themselves, some of the fans might not understand the first message, as a lot of fans see bands and celebrities as almost a higher race of humans, not being able to understand that they are also human and that they get used for what they make. Fans who are part of some sort of counterculture or other musicians will most likely understand this message and possibly relate to it. I think almost everyone though would agree with the message that drugs have bad side effects, especially people who have had a bad trip. In conclusion, Comfortably Numb is a song about a musician asking for help, yet unable to voice it, while being exploited for his music by greedy producers. I also believe that this hypothetical wall also applies to everyone. Everyone will have something about themselves that they would want to block out from ever seeing the light of day using a wall. The wall.
Bu videodaki uyuşturucular gerçek değildi. Bu şakaydı. Lütfen uyuşturucu kullanma. Hem de kullanırsan bana davet etme. I'm Ozan Altıntaş and I approve of this message.